Garland in the corner. He's got it.
Feed stand. Pow! With the running in. Mitchell shakes. Up to the basket. And thunders it home.
Oh! Mobley throws it down.
And Allen blocked the shot at the rim.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs Media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. The Cavs were not able to continue their strong recent play on the offensive end against a lengthy Houston Rockets defense. Joining me today to discuss what it all means is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
Eat Arby's, brother. It was obviously a rough outing. The team just looked really overwhelmed by Houston's physicality. I'm gonna steal a note right out of your rundown, which is Şengün missing this game, while ultimately makes it easier to stop the Rockets, turns a really tough matchup for the Cavs offensively into a nightmare because there's just nowhere to hide. There's rough physicality, fast feet, up and down the roster, and the boys got overwhelmed in this one, man. They didn't have the requisite sharpness to deal with the onslaught that the Rockets defense can kind of bring to these games.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's be clear. The Houston Rockets are a better team when Alperen Şengün is available for them. But for the Cavs offense specifically, replacing one of the worst defenders in the NBA as kind of a scab you can pick at within the interior of that defense and replacing it with Tari Eason, that makes things a whole lot more difficult for them. And I think you saw it throughout the night. They were able to kind of compete in that first quarter. We'll get to Kenny's comments in a second, but respectfully, I kind of disagree with him. I thought the first quarter was pretty well played for the Cavs. I thought they did what they needed to combat Houston on the offensive glass. Fouling Steven Adams at times was smart. I thought they got some good looks and weren't able to knock them down. But having Tari Eason in there basically meant that there wasn't going to be a poor defender on the court, and there wasn't going to be anyone that didn't have size on the court for Houston pretty much the entirety of the game. And I thought the Cavs were very clearly bothered by that. There's been games in the past where people have talked about, length and athleticism bothering the Cavs. I thought this was maybe the most clear example of it, where it was changing their process. It was changing, their decision making. I think you could see it with the way guys would turn their backs to the defender, just trying to protect the ball. For all the turnovers that the Cavs had in this game, and there were quite a few of them, there were even more potential ones. They only ended with 14
turnovers in this game, by the way. That's crazy.
And that's not counting the times where Houston poked at the ball, it bounced up to half court, and they had to collect it and got a late shot clock shot, right? So I thought that they really, really struggled against Houston's length on the offensive end.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't ready. I don't agree with Kenny that the game was over at the end of the first quarter. They got it within 2 in the second and promptly gave up a 9-0 run to kind of let Houston regain control of the game that they never relinquished. But I do think there was that immediate, oh man, we don't got the, we'll have to play perfect to score on this team. And that is kind of what it is. And on one hand, we talked about how the Knicks loss, while really disappointing in how it happened, you saw some positive indicators, and
a largely well played game from the Cavs,
and a largely well played game. But a game like this is where you go, that's why you can't lose that next game. Because there's no guarantee that your positive indicators are going to continue. And they'd played 3 pretty good games in a row. From a process standpoint, this team hasn't really shown us that they can play 5, 6, 7 of those games in a row. And, it almost feels like from the armchair, obviously this is enormous grain of salt. Almost feels like they show a little bit. They go, okay, we're good. And then they're not good. They had part of being good is doing it all the time, getting yourself up for it every time and not kind of falling back into that. So I don't know. It's a bummer outcome. But honestly, like where these two teams are, a 19-10 Rockets team that was 8-2 at home going into the game, is going to beat a 17-15 Cavs team, oftentimes by double digits, when they've got home court advantage and they're playing their A game. And I thought Houston played their A game. Kevin Durant was a horror show to try to guard in this game. There were no good options. He cooked Evan. He cooked DeAndre. He cooked Jarrett.
He cooked Sam a lot. So Sam was on him a ton, which was to some extent, it was a great shot making game from Kevin Durant. Like I really felt that there was elite shot making from him, but and some of these shots were really well contested. He's going to do that, but Sam, that is one of those examples. I push back at the notion of shooting over somebody. That is certainly one of those times where that absolutely is the case.
Yeah, it was a comfortable game for Kevin Durant, is what I would say. Like no one ever pushed him off his spots or made it hard for him consistently. And on the few opportunities they did, he still scored. I feel like this game kind of was a study in like a team with identity just decimating a team that didn't have an identity. And this Cavs team this season doesn't really have a calling card or a thing that you can count on that says, oh, we're going to win this game because of how we do X, Y, or Z. And when that happens, it makes everything look better for the team that's doing the butt kicking and worse for the team that isn't, So like if the Cavs were, if this was last year's Cavs team, for example, like I think that this game, it still would be a tough matchup. If you recall, during the offseason, I said I was more scared about playing this Rockets team in the finals for this Cavs team than I would be scared of OKC because of just how tough of a matchup I thought it was.
I think it's been 2 or 3 seasons since we've beaten Houston, like period in a game.
So like, I think it would be tough, but because Houston not only has all these physical strengths, but a collective identity that they're all playing with, it makes the Cavs look small. It makes them look, like physically outmatched. And while that is true, like Sam Merrill is not the athlete Tari Eason is. I'm sorry. Like, I don't think I'm breaking any news here. But like the cool thing about basketball is that when you are playing together, when you are playing sharp, when you're executing at a high level and everyone is on the same page, you can beat teams that have physical advantages over you, and you can make you can make them scratch their head being like, why can't we just run over these guys? And like the Cavs aren't a team that's capable of doing that to a team like Houston this year. I know that was a long-winded way to say Houston's playing well, Cavs aren't playing well, but I do think like it's not just a styles thing. It's not just a physicality thing. It's about the sum of the parts.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest differences when you take a look at this year's team versus last year's. Right, last year's team, we talked in the playoffs about how when they hit a lot of adversity, when Darius is limited, when you have these things going on, they don't make games feel like it's Cavs basketball, right? Like sometimes the identity goes on the wayside. But that is a different problem, and that's a type of problem solving that we thought we'd be dealing with this year. The difference with this year's team is they are struggling to find that identity. And that was something that Donovan talked about in a really good interview with Mark Spears. I think I encourage you guys to go check that out. But he said, we are searching to find that identity this season. And I do think, there are concessions obviously made with this roster, right? When you're playing with a smaller backcourt, there's concessions that you make. When you have some of the wing and big options, when you don't really have a true established third big that you feel great about, you're making some concessions.
When you can't count on some of your players that you are invested in, you're making concessions.
But I think those concessions are all in service of one thing, that this team is going to be able to shoot. I think when it comes to roster construction, that was one of the things coming off of that Knicks series that the kind of consensus was, hey, we need to get shooting around this team. And we went from no shooters to adding Max Drew. So we added George Niang, right? We had Karis LeVert, who is a streaky shooter, but someone that shot off the dribble, and we wanted to add more size. So we moved him for DeAndre Hunter, who was a terrific catch-up shooter. This team is not going to beat teams like the Houston Rockets that have that physical advantage if they can't shoot well from three. And I think that was a big part of this game. The Cavs actually generated 24 wide open threes where no Houston defender was within 6 feet of them. They shot 33% on those. Last year, they shot, 43% on those wide open looks, 10% better. And if you would have come into, if you would have told me before the game, no other information, but hey, you're going to lose on the offensive glass a little bit to Houston, 18-15, pretty close battle, but you're actually going to outscore them on second chance points, 15-11. I'd say, oh, that's really good. If you told me, hey, the Cavs are going to have a 56-40 edge in points in the paint for the game, I'd say, hey, that's pretty good. I will take those things. Those are some of my biggest concerns when it comes to playing the Houston Rockets. But, and I don't want to make it sound, because I do not mean this, I do not want to make it sound like I'm saying, hey, they did everything they needed to do and they just couldn't hit their threes. That wasn't the case. The offense was bothered, and I think that impacts how comfortable you feel when you're taking those wide open threes. But what I'm speaking to is kind of the larger concession with this team, which is that if this team shoots well, they are able to overcome some of those roster deficiencies or areas where they aren't as strong as other teams.
Yeah, you're not wrong. They need to shoot. This team specifically needs to shoot the ball because they just can't hang their hat on enough other stuff. And I think it's kind of an indictment of this team so far this year that they need to shoot at 40% from three to be competitive in most games. Against decent
we do know that
competition.
makes some impact on the defense too, right?
Sure,
they're
sure. But
transition defense and all those kinds of things.
Sure, but this team, how many times last year did we go, man, they didn't even shoot that well, and still won. Like on the rare occasions they didn't, they still had all this other stuff they could hang their hat on. And there are little bits and bobs where you see that, like Darius getting into the paint. The floater game is really, really good for him right now.
Still moving really well, which is one of the kind of encouraging things that you can point to.
They found little tiny things in this game, like when they were making their run to get close again, they ran 2 or 3 Craig Jarrett pick and rolls. And part of me is I just think they need to get back to doing stuff like that. Because I think one of the reasons, and we didn't talk about this at all, so maybe I'm just getting, and I haven't thought about this enough. So we might get to the end of this conversation, and you're you're an idiot. But
okay, I love those types of conversations. By the way, so if you want to think things through,
let's talk out loud. Let's think out loud real quick. We know right now that Jarrett is not playing well relative to his standard as a Cavalier. We know that Evan has been up and down, to say the least, this season. And when I watch them play 3 or 4 possessions in a row where it's either a high pick and roll with Jarrett or a functional high pick and roll, which is a high dribble handoff with Jarrett. Jarrett catches the ball in the short roll and he makes a good decision. Rockets find themselves in rotation, and Jarrett is able to either get a bucket or make a nice pass out for a shooter. And it's it just feels like that stuff has been so excised from the offense. It just feels like they're not doing the stuff that's easy. And no, you can't build an entire offense out of high pick and roll. I'm not trying to be the Daryl Morey, James Harden Rockets. I want them to have other things. But it's it kind of just feels like they don't do stuff to get easy buckets. They don't, sometimes you have to just, this is my equivalent of your uncle being they need to throw it in the post, get a good look.
Or they need to run the damn ball.
Yeah, or they need to run the damn ball, but run a little pick and roll when things are stuck. Don't try to do all this side to side stuff against a defense that is just going to beat you up on every turner or every corner you try to turn. And make some concessions to your personnel, I feel like the way they're playing offense right now kind of reminds me of I'm a Cowboys fan, as many will malign me for saying and for being. And they hired a new defensive coordinator this year, and they played a ton of zone defense, and all their cornerbacks are man corners. Like, that's what they do, and they all sucked. They had a really hard time covering playing zone coverage because that's not really their specialty. I feel like they need to, especially when things are junking up a little bit, like, just go back to some pet things that are comfortable for your players. Like, because I think you're going to see the floor offensively raise a little bit, the engagement level raise a little bit, where it's like, oh, I'm catching the ball in a place I'm used to catching it, and I've spent the last 8 years of my career catching it.
And a situation you're used to getting the ball in. Yeah.
And I can make reads because I have so much, this Cavs team, I know, like, obviously they've talked a lot about their kind of development strategy, and it's all about kind of practical reps and muscle memory, kind of earned decision making, like getting yourself in spot, practicing these spots so you can make the right decision when it matters. Well, like, Jarrett's been in the short roll a trillion times at this point in his career. Like, make things easy on him and work to get guys like that going in a way that's, like, more meaningful. Like, it's no surprise to me that the game where everyone sits against Miami and Jarrett puts up 30 and 12, it's just touch after touch after touch in places where he's comfortable. And, like, I just feel like the team writ large could kind of just use that mentality of, like, what do we need? What did we do that felt good last year? Let's just do that a while. Like, and you kind of talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, just get back to your basics, so then you can experiment later. Like, I just still feel like we haven't gotten there. I know this is a very long-winded take, but, like, just curious what you think.
No, I think you're right, because this is a team that has established over the years that they are very effective running that, right? Like, you know that you can get good looks, not only just, hey, roll man scores, you know that it generates kick out opportunities. It develops those big to big passes that we love. We know so often it's the pass that leads to the pass that leads to the pass that leads to the shot when this offense is really humming. And it just feels like they have this tool at their disposal and they're not using it. And that's insane, because when you have tools like Zoom Workplace, Carter, you just have to use it, because teams move fastest when everyone is in sync. Zoom Workplace keeps meetings, chats, documents, and more together, so your work flows like a perfect play. Keep work moving and zoom ahead with Zoom Workplace. It's funny, Matt. Like, on the one hand, I said you can't shoot like you did against Houston and really have a chance to beat that sort of team, and that's true. The flip side of that is there was not a starter that shot worse than 40% from three. Like, you know, Darius is out there. He's 2 of 4. Donovan's 2 of 5. Sam's 3 of 6. Dean's 2 of 5. It was just the bench production where absolutely no one could hit anything. DeAndre Hunter went over. Evan obviously went over. Lonzo went over. Jalen Tyson went 1 of 5. Like, a lot of these opportunities were being generated, and they just couldn't hit those shots. And I agree with you. Like, I think there's a value in getting the bigs involved, getting the guards downhill. Maybe some of that was, hey, Darius isn't fully comfortable getting downhill. That's when he kind of gets those stingers. I think we've seen that with some of his decision making when he gets into the paint. Maybe that had an impact on it. Donovan hasn't always shown a consistent interest of getting into the paint as frequently as we know he can, because we know he's saving his body to some extent. So maybe that's part of it. But I agree with you. I think that there is low-hanging fruit to be had there, and it's going to lead to better opportunities for everybody.
Yeah, I just want to see them get comfortable, and then explore the space. Like, I just, this team, and I think that those kinds of choices, and I know it's not simple, and I know teams are guarding them different. I know guys are being challenged in different ways, and, you know, and X, Y, and Z. There's layers and layers of context, but it's like, it can't be just like, Jarrett, you figure it out on your own. Like, right. And if Jarrett is back to the 15, 16 points a game on, you know, the 75% field goal shooting or whatever it was at points last year, that, you know, when things are really humming, like, think about Jarrett against that OKC team in that showdown, that game of the year showdown, and how he basically won them the game. Like, I just want to see them work a little harder to find that, because what it does is it diversifies your portfolio a little bit. And now it's not, well, DeAndre and Jalen Tyson were icy from three, so we couldn't win. Like, that just like, they need to have that kind of diversity in what they're doing, or like, this is just going to be the kind of game we have against a team that's super physical, that can guard at a really, really high level. So I don't know, man. It's because I'm just disappointed with the usage. I just feel like, hey, you're committed to this guy, like, and I'm just not really like seeing them show me that they are in the way that, like, I think would be mutually beneficial for everyone.
And I don't think it even has to be Jared. Like, I think the reason why
this could be, you could plug in any name here that's struggling.
Yeah, hey, let's even have DeAndre Hunter roll to the basket a time or two, right? Let's see what happens. But I think, like, I think the reason why we end up defaulting to Jarrett is because Evan Mobley isn't the same level of screen setter, so he's not generating an advantage in the same way. But I would like to see Mobley get some of those downhill touches, because there's times where Jarrett just gets the ball and rises, and sometimes it feels like Evan's not getting those types of opportunities. And we also know that if you get him the ball going downhill with an advantage that's already been created, he's able to knife by guys. He can use either hand. He can make
he
some
looked really good doing that
there.
stuff against the Knicks.
Right. Like, I think that you can get him those types of opportunities. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Jared, but I agree with you that I think the downhill effect of that is it just creates better opportunities for everyone else and more diverse looks, right? I think the likelihood of getting DeAndre Hunter an open shot that he feels comfortable with goes up by running those types of possessions. And
even the sorry to interrupt, but like, even the layup attempts they're getting, like, we talked a little bit after the Knicks game about the negative impact of like biffing a layup. And like, that's true. It matters that they're blowing some of these layups. I also think last year their angles were just cleaner. Like,
they were,
like, because teams were in full on panic mode. And, you know, like, so many of DeAndre's drives, for example, and I think he's been a little better as a driver this year than he was last year, in many cases. But like, almost every layup attempt is a pretty high degree of difficulty one, where he has to put it up crazy high off the glass from a weird angle, because he doesn't quite have the guy beat all the way. And I just feel like guys were able to waltz to the hoop a lot last year.
Yeah. And the angles are definitely, they were cleaner last year. One thing that is kind of coming to mind and bringing this conversation back to the Rockets game is, when you're dealing with teams with a lot of length, you don't really beat that with the dribble, right? Like, you have to find quicker, more concise ways to create an advantage. And that sort of screen setting is one of those ways. But I felt like there were too many times where the Cavs tried to beat Houston off of the dribble. Like, even that play that Darius, danced on Kevin Durant and got the nice layup. Like, that's great, but he shouldn't be working that hard. Nobody else is involved on that possession offensively. And there were just too many times where they tried to create an advantage with the dribble, got poked out, or they weren't able to. The ball rotated, and you're just kind of bashing your head against a brick wall. And in Evan Mobley's case, he got back to that bad habit of, I'm feeling pressure from the defense, I'm going to turn my back to the basket. I don't want to see that. I want to see
can't let Clint Capella turn you, brother.
I want to see more concise forward-facing possessions when you're playing against teams with length. Like, that's what it really comes down to. I understand anytime you're making a pass against a rangy defense like that, there's the potential of it going for a pick six, but that kind of bashing your head against the wall and not doing those simpler things to generate an advantage, that leads to a lot of turnovers, right? Like, we talked about before, there wasn't a massive advantage in turnovers for Houston relative to the Cavs, but 26-11 in points off turnovers. I think that speaks to, one, the number of live ball turnovers that the Cavs had, and two, the ability for Houston to cover up for their mistakes, right? Like, ultimately that kind of stuff I thought was more telling of how the game felt than some of those other things like second chance points where the Cavs had an advantage. Some of that's going to be skewed because I don't think it counts free throws, and they fouled Steven Adams off of some of those offensive rebounds. Like I don't think that's as representative as the points off of turnovers, because I think it really does speak to the types of turnovers and the types of situations that Houston's defense was able to put them in.
Yeah. Oh man, that game was hard. It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
Just felt like it was kind of an outclassed type of game, but that's just kind of where they are. Unfortunately, and like that's why I just kind of want to see them just try to find ways to get their best players involved, engaged, and succeeding again. Like, like we can say, oh, cool, hey, we've moved DeAndre to the bench, Jalen's starting, or now Sam's starting, and we've got this great production. Like, this team needs to find a way to get DeAndre Hunter going, especially while Max is not here. And that's not an injuries excuse. That's just like an investment of where you've invested in your roster. Like in the month of November, what do you think DeAndre Hunter shot from the field? This is the month of November.
Like 37% from the field and 25% from three.
November. He shot 48% in November.
Okay.
48% from the field, only 35 from three. So you're like, oh, okay, the three's not exactly where we need it to be, but the rebounding was okay. 2.5 assists, not bad. Like they had a pretty
that version
helpful.
Of DeAndre helps.
They had a pretty helpful role player. You could pick nits off ball defensively. You could pick nits with the playmaking and the rebounding, but like overall a helpful player. He's down to 37% from the field in the month of November, 27 from three
in December.
Or December.
Now you're the one getting.
Now I'm getting mixed
December,
up.
November mixed up.
Down to 3 rebounds, 11 points. Like
I can't believe I got the field goal percentage perfectly right. I swear I never looked up that stat.
And like he has to either find a way, or like they might need to like make some even bigger things, because it's just tough. It's tough to play a guy struggling this much, 25 to 30 minutes a game. But they need him. They can't just you can't just say, well, we're just gonna play Naquan Tomlin until you feel better. Like they're gonna need to find some ways to get him going. So much of this is just the shot. He's just going through a terrible, terrible slump. Ball's leaving his hands bad. I mean, he kind of held his hands to the air against the Knicks when he finally hit that three. But outside of that Knicks, outside of that Hornets game where he puts up 27 points on 13 shots, things are feeling really, really good. It's 3 of 10, 5 of 13, 3 of 7, 0 of 7. And like they just need more. And there's nothing that much to say because it's so dependent on the shot just going in. But like it's just, when you talk about ways that this Cavs team, like their roads to victory right now, like that particular road right now feels closed. And it's really, really a challenge for them.
Yeah, the shot making aspect of this just has to turn around for the Cavs. Like that's one of those things that they're going to need to figure out. Otherwise, this isn't going to turn around. And
I think for the most part, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I think for the most part, I think the shot making is normalized enough for almost all the other players. Like
it's starting to trend in that right direction, right? Like DG's already back up to like 38% for the season, right? Which I think people over-indexed on 3 really bad shooting games, but he's certainly back up. Donovan's been in a little bit of a funk to some extent, but that's understandable with him dealing with illness, right? Like,
but Sam's jumper is in really, really good shape right now. Jalen's jumper is in good shape. Craig has been a pretty reliable shot maker for the most part. They're getting enough there, I think. I think it's more systemic of the kinds of shots they're generating. I think it's systemic of, I think Hunter's is a loud exception to that rule.
He and Lonzo.
Yeah, Lonzo as well. And that's tough too, because like that exacerbates everyone else's need to, you almost have to make up for it a little bit. Like if you're going to give a combined, let's say like 45 minutes between Lonzo and Hunter, that's just a lot of minutes where you're not getting shot making from two crucial positions on the floor, which means everyone else has to be at a 60th, 70th, 80th percentile shot making. So even when those folks are like, okay, they're back to normal, that's how you get to 33% on wide open threes in a game where you generate 24 of them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Kenny talked recently about this, about DeAndre Hunter's struggles, and basically said when it's this big of an outlier for a guy, when he's this far off of his career norms, I have to take responsibility as a coach here, right? Like this, I need to find ways to get him going. Obviously, he's in a funk, but this is one of those things that we have to collectively try to get him back going. Because I think DeAndre is one of those examples, right? You talk about he and Lonzo being the two that really are struggling with their jumper. If DeAndre is shooting properly, it feels better when Lonzo's out there. Like it's not as big of an issue, right? And
everything layers on to each other right now.
And that's why sometimes losing streaks and slumps can feel so much worse than they are, because failing in one aspect tends to get amplified with other things, right? It bleeds into so many other aspects of the game. And do you think that they're like, I know you mentioned maybe you doing some armchair psychology there and thinking, oh, maybe they thought, oh, okay, we're back on track now. Do you think it was that, or do you think there was some potential that this was a bit of a letdown game after Christmas? Like, man, we're kind of feeling like crap coming off of this Christmas game. That was one we absolutely should have had. And then, okay, maybe things are working out well, but we're missing some of our shots early. And oh my God, this defense is just miserable to play against. Like, do you think some of this was a little bit of a letdown game?
I think, and again, same caveats as to when I did this earlier. We don't freaking know. We're not in the locker room, and we're certainly not
this is
inside.
Big time armchair psychology.
We're certainly not inside the heads of these players. So that's really important. When I watched post-game availability, like, they didn't seem like, man, we gave it our all here and we're morose now and we don't have the energy to get up for this next one. They felt like positive progress had been made. And that's kind of where I got to that take. Like, yes, I do think, like, I think Houston has that effect on a lot of teams, like,
that's true.
Like you if things aren't going well, they have a snowball effect defensively. The way the Cavs, used to have a snowball effect offensively, where, one shot begat another, like one stop, one turnover, one bump begets another against Houston, and you just kind of get worn down. But, like, again, I just think it's a continued lack of, like, being ready to like do everything you need to do to win on a night-to-night basis, and then that, like, bleeds into shot make. It just requires the most perfect concoction. It's like, what is it, like, that thing, like, isn't it like souffles that are really, really hard to bake? Like, you have to make them.
Lord, I have no idea, but I think that's true.
Like a loud noise can, like, ruin it, something like that. Like, I feel like the Cavs' day-to-day success is a souffle right now, where it's like you have to. Oh, well, they took it out of the oven 12 milliseconds early, so now it's garbage. I just think, like, they need everything. This is
a big deviation from your Swiss watch analogy.
Yeah.
In the past.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a better one. Like, it just kind of, like, they can't, like, and I do think there's an important distinction between that analogy. I know you're just teasing me, but, like, the Swiss watch is, like, the difference between perfection and just like getting gunked up. Like, this is like the difference between inedible food and edible food. And, like, I think right now the souffle is coming out a little overdone or underdone on a night-to-night basis, and then when we see it all come together, it feels really, really good. But, like, they need to build these habits to get themselves and these little, like, break glass in case of emergency things to get them reset and get back in good shape within a game that allows them to stay competitive on a night-to-night basis. Because, like, I mean, they can't stay playing, win 3 out of every 10 games for long.
Yeah. They got to get the ship moving in the right direction, right? And I think that there's been some of the larger signs over this recent stretch have been encouraging. Houston was definitely a tough matchup, and I think it was also made a little bit more difficult. Like, one of the skeleton key things that's made them play better recently is Sam Merrill returning to the lineup, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about the decision making and everything he's doing. This is not a matchup where having Sam Merrill at small forward was an advantage for them. Like, I think
Nope.
if you're fully, or not even fully healthy, but if Evan Mobley isn't on a pitch count, you're probably starting him at power forward and maybe putting Dean at small forward, right? And asking him to, let's have some size out there to deal with Kevin Durant, and hopefully, another body at small forward that can set some proper grown man screens to free up the guards. And you didn't really have that with Sam. Sam's a terrific screen setter as a guard, but
Did
it's
a
just
nice
a
job
different animal against Houston.
And I will say, did a great job slipping a few of those screens where the Rockets wanted to blitz the ball handlers. Like, him slipping out into open space is one of the few things they did get going on the offensive end. But I just think, like, it's one of those things where like that's a drop in the ocean compared to the other things that Houston was able to do to them because of the general size that the Cavs trotted out there.
Yeah, and the thing I was thinking about too is if they did go that route, right? Like, if you did have Evan Mobley starting, if you had Dean Wade out there at small forward, you're still kind of in that spot where you just don't feel comfortable. Like, you don't have that third big that you 100% trust, right? Like, you can go to Thomas Bryant, but I almost feel that more at the power forward position where they lack some optionality. And obviously, if they're fully healthy, you can potentially go to Larry Nance Jr. in that spot, right? And I think Larry had some up and down moments earlier in the season, but it's going to take some time, right? Like, it's going to take time for this team to get their habits right, to get back into a rhythm, to reintroduce new parts, and for that to feel comfortable. And it's not made any easier when you are playing against some of the best teams in the NBA, right?
And that's why you don't lose to, all the teams they lost to at the beginning of the month, because now you have to get. Not only do you have to get right, not only do you have to set these good habits, you might lose anyway. When you do everything right against these teams.
And this Houston game wasn't one of those. The Houston game was not, hey, we did everything right and we lost anyways. But I think it just goes to show that sometimes these tough matchups are going to try. This adversity you're going to face is going to drag you back into some of those old habits and the struggles that you've had. So you have to fight that with every cell of your being, pretty much, right? And try to get going in the right direction collectively.
Oh man, would that be nice to see? I just think they really need it. They need some positive momentum, and in a way that exceeds. We beat Charlotte and New Orleans at home, Yeah. Like, they need to string a couple wins together against some of these great teams. I mean, there's a real shot they go 0-4 in these next 4 games right now, playing the way they're playing. And, now you're looking at 17-19 as you approach the halfway mark of the season. And, I only think they'll be favored against Phoenix. I think they'll probably be dogs at home against Denver and Detroit, playing the way they're playing right now. And by the way, 3 national games too, so it's going to be like the eye of Sauron will be on these on this Cavs team.
I think they might be favored. I think they might be favored home versus Detroit. Just because they're home.
I will be surprised. I think it'll be just Detroit is just so they're 8 games up on them in the standings. That's quite a bit.
I'm thinking just from a betting perspective, not in the hearts and minds of analysts kind of thing, right?
I heard. I think it'll be close. They won't it won't be Detroit minus 9 or something like that.
No. It's going to be like -1, 1.5.
I think Houston was like -3.5 or something like that. But point is, it all 4 of these are very losable games if you don't bring your A game. And I think a little desperation, and not quite panic, but a little desperation is something that this team is really, really in need of. But organized and structured desperation of like doing the stuff I talked about, finding ways to put all of the players on the team in a good position consistently. Like, we're just not seeing it. And until they do, this is kind of going to be what it is.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And, positive signs are still there, right? Like having Darius look better physically is great. Jalen Tyson coming in 23 and 15. I know some of that came kind of in garbage time and late game.
He was good during the game too. He was the only guy who I thought played well.
I thought he played really, really well, and he continues to be one of those bright spots. Man, I got to tell you, like, the game obviously was tough. I didn't feel great about it. But you know what made me feel even worse? Was seeing the San Antonio Spurs drop a game to the Utah Jazz. I was like, God damn, now they're going to be pissed off heading into a national TV game. You know, they had their letdown game after beating the Thunder twice. Now they're going to be looking to make a statement against us. That's not fun. I don't like that at all.
Me neither, brother. It's gonna be hard.
It's gonna be really hard.
Hope Mobley can start, because we're gonna need every ounce of size we have against that absolute freak of nature.
Yeah,
because we really haven't gotten to play him since he's been fully actualized.
Yeah, we only got one Mobley versus Wemby game last year. I don't know if Wemby played the whole game. I think
he was on a weird pitch count at that point, because I happened to be at that game, if you recall, and Wemby blocked a Sam Merrill shot directly into my lap.
I thought Mobley didn't play in that one, and the one that they both
I don't
played
remember
in was
if Mobley,
in San Antonio.
I don't remember if I think Mobley played, but I remember Jarrett had a great game against Wemby. It was amazing.
Yeah, well,
we won the game.
Yeah. I think if I'm looking at the Spurs matchup and getting back to what you were talking about getting downhill and finding ways to kind of get those opportunities, I'd like to see them try to do that, even though Wemby on the interior is as intimidating as it gets.
Yeah, I don't care if he has 6 blocks. Just attack.
It's going back to the football analogy. Sometimes run plays aren't going to work out, but you wear teams down, right? You stick with it, you get downhill, and not every single one of those roll opportunities has to result in a field goal attempt at the rim or in the paint, right? Like you can generate stuff off of that. I think this is another good opportunity for them, because they're going to be playing against a team with quite a bit of length, not insane length like the Houston Rockets, right? Like the Spurs on the perimeter, it's more like a bunch of 6'5" guys, and then Wemby is the biggest freak of nature.
And it's 6'5" guys who, while Wemby is out there, feel perfectly empowered to play like maniacs, because they know they can't make a mistake that can't be cleaned up on the backside.
Don't get me wrong, it's another nightmare matchup.
Yeah, they're the second best team in the league right now.
Yeah, this is not a game where the Cavs should be expected to win, but it is an opportunity for them to go into a situation where they're not expected to win and try to at least have a good process. And if you consistently execute a good process, you're going to hopefully put yourself into position to maybe steal a game. And I think at this point, that's exactly what that would be classified if they were able to come out with a win.
Oh, brother. This is scary times, but let's hope they show us a little bit.
Yeah, it's scary times suck, but it's also where some of the best memories come out of, right? Like when you're able to overcome and bounce back from that, when you're able to come back from down 3-1, like that's exactly when you kind of that's when teams can endear themselves to you. And I don't think that the Cavs have done a lot to endear themselves, to the fans watching this season. I think Donovan's opened up a whole bunch of, they know that this is a team that is capable of playing better. And I think that's one of the reasons why you have disappointment, right? Is because we know that this team, as currently constructed, is capable of more. And they just got to get back to doing that.
Yeah, we're a long way away from clapping for Wayne Ellington and Luke Walton, just showing us competent hoops.
What a callback. What better place to end this at? Hopefully they can get a win against the Spurs. Carter, you'll be away for the next podcast. We won't be going live, but we will have Tony Pesta joining us, filling in for Carter. Happy to have Tony back on the podcast, so appreciate him making the time. Big thanks to everyone that tuned in live on YouTube. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chasedown's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of their view to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.